Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I will be reviewing X-Men: The Last Stand. What a good movie this was. I mentioned in my last review that this was my favorite X-Men movie, and yeah, I still feel the same about that. There's just so many cool moments in this movie, and the story has been the strongest that it's ever been. There's so many good moments. Let me talk about some of those moments that I really enjoyed. I really like that we get to see Jean Grey's full power, and it's really cool to see. They make Jean Grey as well as Magneto the main villains of this movie. I would even go as far as saying that Jean Grey was more of a threat than Magneto. I'm assuming while Jean Grey was supposedly dead, that the Phoenix was able to come out and take over her mind. It was actually a pretty smart way that they brought her back. So, she was basically haunting Scott by saying his name in his mind over and over again. This constant voice that Scott was hearing inevitably brought him back to where she died, and basically, he accidentally resurrected her. Throughout the whole movie, she just had this ominous presence, and it was just really cool to see the absolute power that she contained. It was really sad though to see Charles Xavier get killed by Jean Grey. Their overall scene was very tense, because you knew that Jean Grey was very angry, especially with Charles, so we knew something was probably going to happen. I say that the scene was very tense, because again, you knew Jean Grey was angry, and as Charles was speaking to her, she was getting increasingly more agitated, and you can see that because everything in the house started shaking, and the house started levitating. It was a very emotional scene because we've grown attached to Professor X, and to see him die in such a way was very sad to watch. The other really cool scene with Jean Grey was at the very end of the movie. It was both emotional, but emotionally cool. I'll tell you more about the final battle because there were some parts that did irk me a little bit, but for now I'll talk about the good parts of it. This is where we get to see Jean Grey's full power realized. It just seemed like Jean Grey had enough, because she knew everybody was beat, and so she thought that, what the heck, I'm just gonna destroy everything. Everything started to rumble like an earthquake, and things started levitating, and she incinerated all of the military, which was very shocking to say the least. It was awesome that every single person who tried to step up would instantly be incinerated, except for Wolverine. Luckily for Wolverine, he has regenerative powers, so he was able to suffer through Jean Grey's absolute power. I'm sure if Wolverine stayed there a bit longer, he probably could have died, but I'm not sure what would have happened because I don't know if her power is enough to destroy adamantium, although it's just a skeleton that is made of adamantium, not his organs, but I don't know if the regenerative powers would regrow those organs. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Wolverine ended up being the only person who could kill Jean Grey, and he had no other choice. It was a very emotional scene because we had to see Jean Grey get killed yet again. I feel like I should mention something that's been going on with the past movies as well, and it was the love story. I get it. Some people need to have a love story in their movie to keep them watching, but I'm not that kind of dude. I just like to see action, and of course I like the story, but the love parts just don't click with me. This is not my complaint. I'm not complaining that there is a love story, but what I am doing is complaining about the fact that it feels like it's kind of forced. What I mean by forced is that the scenes where there is love seems to be filler scenes. I say filler because they don't really push the story forward, and it just adds extra drama to the story that doesn't need to be there. And I feel like sometimes the movie wouldn't be as long, and that's why they had to add love stories. So in the first movie, it's teased that Rogue and Bobby will become boyfriend and girlfriend, which they end up becoming. What was weird about that was that in the beginning of the movie, Bobby was all lovey-dovey with her, and then suddenly Mystique poses Bobby, told Rogue to leave forever, and all that, and then they were fine at the end of the movie. without showing us the resolution to that argument. In the second movie, it's not really commented on. The only scene that I really remember there being with two of them is when they're in his house just being weird. In this movie, it's more prevalent, and they kind of make it a side story, but it doesn't really work. So there's this new girl, I'm not sure what her name was, but anyways, her and Bobby were quite close, and Rogue was of course getting jealous and all that, but to me the story felt forced, and that the movie could have not had that. What I mean is that the movie would have been exactly the same if they just took those scenes out. I mentioned earlier that there were some parts of the final fight scene that bothered me, and I will tell you those now. I'm going to talk about the story a bit, just so then, when I talk about the final fight scene, it'll all make sense. So the main storyline is that the government has found a mutant, and whenever this mutant goes near some other mutants, their powers are suppressed. So, of course, the government found a way to turn this into a permanent cure for the mutant X chromosome. So, the story is that Magneto wants to get rid of this mutant because he feels like mutants should not change. So he decides the only way to stop it from happening is to just outright kill the kid. So we got the main plot out of the way. So now I will tell you what really didn't make sense about the final fight scene. So Magneto and all of the mutants that are on his side storm Alcatraz, which is now the main research center for this cure. Luckily for the government, they were smart enough to make their weapons made out of plastic, so that Magneto can't destroy their guns immediately, which is pretty smart. So when the mutants first get there, the military is prepared to basically cure all of them against their will. Magneto, in his arrogance, assumes that the military are just stupid, so he is obviously shocked when their weapons are made out of plastic. The military starts succeeding in this, and this is where my main problem hits. So much later on in the fight scene, Magneto gets one of his, I'll call them lieutenants, to take out all of the guns, because she has the power that when she claps, she can incinerate things. So she incinerates the weapons that the military is using. You might be asking me, what's the problem? What the problem is that they wait a long time to do this, and I don't know why they waited so long. Like, you have hundreds of mutants storming Alcatraz, the one place you want to break into, and the military is well prepared and starts firing their weapons and hearing all the mutants basically incapacitating all of your foot soldiers. Wouldn't it be smart that at the first chance you possibly get, that you take out all of your enemies' weapons first? Because now he has far less foot soldiers to get into Alcatraz, making it harder for them to get in there and accomplish their mission. I understand that it was probably to extend the fight scene, just to show some cool things, but it just doesn't make sense in that context. The next thing that I feel like I should point out is how it all ended. What I mean is that the final part of the fight scene could have been completely avoided with this one little thing. So at the end of the fight scene, Magneto is throwing cars, and Pyro is setting them on fire to make the cars fireballs. It's a very cool scene, just seeing the cars flying everywhere on fire. It's just really cool. So the X-Men are all pinned down because they don't want to be hit by a flying car, which makes sense. And Wolverine, Storm, and Beast notice that there is a cartridge of syringes that are filled with a cure, and they come up with a plan to stop Magneto by injecting him with the cure. That's great and all, but the next part that makes you question it. So Wolverine runs out and Magneto grabs him, and Magneto falls for their trap. And Beast comes up from behind Magneto and stabs him with the 4 syringes filled with a cure. I'm specific about how many syringes on purpose. Early on in the movie, Mystique is in custody, and Magneto and his buddies go to save her. It was also a very cool scene because Magneto just crushes the police cars and throws them aside. I'm amazed on how cool that was. Anyways, after they save Mystique, they are questioning the other prisoners as to what their powers are. Little do they know that one of the security guards is no longer unconscious, and he shoots one of the syringes into Mystique. This renders her power useless, meaning that she is cured and no longer has power, which is unfortunate to see, especially because Magneto ditched her. That really sucks, because they've had so much history together, and now that she's different, Magneto just dumps her like she's useless. My point is that it only takes one dose of the cure to cure her. This is why I pointed out earlier that Magneto was injected with 4 syringes, and not 1. So the way I see it is that 1 should have been enough to rid Magneto of his power. I can see the other side though, where the argument could be made that because Magneto is a more powerful mutant, that it would be harder to cure them. And that would make sense, but it was not established that that's how that would work. So the second issue with this is that they used 4 syringes, and those were the only syringes left, so they couldn't have taken any other mutant. So based on that fact that Magneto would only need 1 syringe to get rid of his powers, then they should have saved the other 3 and used those on Jean Grey instead of Magneto, because Jean Grey can cause a hell of a lot more damage than Magneto. I understand that they wanted to show us an emotional scene between Wolverine and Jean Grey, but it just didn't make sense to me how they did it, because a lot of this could have been avoided. Because what if Jean Grey did kill Wolverine, and she would have destroyed the whole world? I know I have said many negative things about this movie, but these are just minor things. In the end, I'm just really picky about the movie, because honestly, I'm reviewing a movie, so I feel like I should point out the negatives. I will say though, the end of the movie was pretty cool. They teased the fact that Magneto still had some power, which was really neat. Really didn't make sense with the whole cure thing, but I put that aside because it's just a cool little end. There is also a post-credit scene, which is shocking. And for this post-credit scene, you actually need to pay attention to the movie to understand the post-credit scene. As you know, earlier in the movie, Professor X was unfortunately killed. Or so we thought. So what happened earlier in the movie is that Charles Xavier was having a talk with some students, and he was talking about the fact that when you have such power, you should be able to control it and use it only when needed, because basically he was saying with great power comes great responsibility, but without saying it, because I don't think they really had the rights to say that anyways. What I'm pointing out is that this is the part of the movie Professor X was actually talking about basically injecting your consciousness into a different body. It's funny because that's such a random thing that you would have to listen to. The post-credits scene was that there is a doctor caring for a man that was in a coma, and we learned that Professor X actually transferred his consciousness into this man, which was really cool. The reason why I'm playing this all out is because all the other times that I watched this movie, I never understood that post-credit scene. But this time, for some reason, it just clicked in. It's kind of funny in a way because it makes you realize that you should take every line of a movie seriously, because that might be important later on in the movie. I really like that they set up the fact that Professor X is still alive, and the fact that Magneto might return. Unfortunately, we all know that never happens, but it was still a pretty good end, I guess, to the trilogy. So as I wrap up this trilogy, I just wanted to give an overall thought to the trilogy itself. I really enjoyed these 3 movies. I would say that the third one was the best out of the 2, and people might disagree with me, but that's fine. I like how we were all introduced to these characters, and just the fact that we didn't need to have previous knowledge of who they were in the comics to understand what was going on really added a nice touch to it. I really like how Hugh Jackman brought Wolverine to life. I will say that nobody could ever replace Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, and I will die on that hill. Same thing with Sir Patrick Stewart as Professor X, and Ian McKellen as Magneto. They just did such a good job. It is too bad that we only saw them one more time, and Days of Future Past, but hopefully we will see them again in the MCU, even if it's just a small cameo. Spoiler warning for Multiverse of Madness, but we got Sir Patrick Stewart already as Professor X, so never say never to see Ian McKellen reprise his role. Really enjoyed these set of movies, and they will always be classics in my mind. Anyway, that is the end of this review. Thank you all so much for watching, and please consider liking and subscribing. See you all in the next review.